Happy Saturday, I'm KHOU 11 meteorologist Chris Ramirez, and thank you for watching KHOU Plus. We are expecting a winter storm next week, and the KHOU 11 weather team issuing a weather impact alert for Tuesday and Wednesday, as we could see snow, sleet, and ice. We are expecting very cold temps as well as some possible hazardous roadways and some slick areas, so you might want to pay attention to the weather forecast in the coming days, as we are going to see the surge of this cooler air start arriving later on this afternoon. So today's forecast, today's Saturday, we're expecting those highs to be in the low 60s, but temps are going to start falling later on this evening, and it is going to become breezy. Temps will continue to tumble into the 30s into the overnight hours, so expecting this evening to be quite chilly. So you're going to need those jackets if you are heading out the door, as we're going to see those 40-degree temps as early as 10 p.m. And then from that point forward, we're going to continue to fall to about 33, 32 degrees. But it's the wind chill factor that we're really going to have to pay attention to, because it's going to be dangerously cold, and definitely the risk for hypothermia is going to be there if you are out and about in the morning hours of Sunday unprotected. So looking tonight's forecast, mostly clear. Temperatures falling through the night, low 30s, winds gusting up to 30 miles an hour. This is the reason why the National Weather Service has issued a cold weather advisory for all of southeast Texas. That's going to be in effect from 3 a.m. to 12 p.m. as those temps are going to be in the 30s. It's the wind chill that we're really going to have to pay attention to for Sunday. Sunday's going to be a relatively dry, cold, windy day. We're not expecting any precipitation, at least until Monday evening. But for the folks heading out to the Chevron Houston Marathon, it is going to be a cold one. Temps in the 30s, winds gusting up to 25 miles an hour. We could see winds exceeding 30 miles an hour in between those buildings, and that could ultimately cause a cooler wind chill for tomorrow morning for the runners. So definitely make sure you are layered up and prepared for extremely cold temperatures. And then coming into Monday night, that's when we're expecting the arrival of this precipitation. A coastal low is going to form off the coast of South Texas and slowly move northward. And so Monday night, we could see very cold conditions, but a few flurries and likely some isolated showers. But we're going to have to pay attention to that temperature on whether or not it's going to be above or below freezing. And then as we get closer towards midnight Tuesday morning, throughout most of Tuesday, we're going to see widespread winter precipitation. It could be a snow-sleet mix. There is a possibility that we could be looking at some freezing rain. Models are definitely showing more of an ice accumulation as of this morning. That's something that's different that we've seen yesterday. Yesterday, it kept most of the ice accumulation south of Houston. Now it's possible that we could see some ice accumulations here in Houston proper, ultimately affecting our bridges and overpasses for Tuesday and Wednesday. There is going to be a brief period on Tuesday afternoon where the temperatures could exceed freezing up to 34, 35 degrees. That could give some areas that has received more of the precipitation a chance to melt. But it's Wednesday night, or actually Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, where any melted snow or sleet could definitely freeze back into ice. And so we're going to keep that hazard there for possible hazardous conditions into the early hours of Wednesday. We're comparing both models, the American model and the GFS model. This is the recent runs as of 6 a.m. on Tuesday. The GFS model showing more of an ice sleet mix across Houston. European model still keeping widespread snow, but areas south of Houston could see more of that sleet ice mixture. So definitely they're in agreement in terms of that. It's the type of precipitation that is going to be falling, which is still uncertain. And that ultimately depends on whether or not our roads are going to be hazardous. So we have to keep in mind that the column of air above us, if it is below 32 degrees or 32 degrees or lower, and if we have that precipitation, it falls as snow. Usually you don't have any travel hazards with snowfall. It doesn't really cause wet roadways. But once we get into a layer in the atmosphere that is above freezing, you have it falling from the clouds as snow, it melts temporarily, and then it freezes once again as it reaches a deeper layer of cold air as it hits the ground. That's where you usually see those sleet pellets fall across our area. That could become a bit slippery, but it's the freezing rain that is ultimately very hazardous and usually is the where you could see black ice on our roadways. Usually what happens is that rain falls from the clouds in the upper levels of the atmosphere, and then once it reaches a shallow layer of cold air, which is below freezing, once it makes contact with the surface, it usually freezes on impact. And then of course, if the layer of the atmosphere is completely above freezing, it usually falls as rain. We're not expecting rain, we're expecting that wintry mixed fall of that precipitation heading into Tuesday. So as we look at future track, here's what's going to happen. We're expecting that coastal low to form from the south just off the coast of the Rio Grande Valley. Monday by 7 p.m. we could see more of an isolated sleet pellet, maybe some flurries moving into the picture, but just keep in mind that we're not expecting any travel hazards on Monday at all. It's because the temperatures in Houston expected to be above freezing, around 37 degrees. It's when the temperature falls to freezing or below, which is going to happen maybe around 3 a.m., that's when any precipitation that is going to be falling across southeast Texas could definitely be frozen. And whether or not it's going to be snow, sleet, or freezing rain, that's the uncertain part of it. As we go into the early hours of Tuesday morning, we very well could see more of a snowfall from areas north of downtown, and then more of a sleet snow mixture from downtown and areas south. But then as we get closer towards 6 o'clock Tuesday morning, that's when we're expecting to see more of this widespread snowfall, and very well could see this snow as far south as Galveston. But temperatures are still going to remain in the upper 20s by Tuesday morning. So conditions still look snowy, but if we do get those periods where sleet or freezing rain is falling, that could give us some hazardous roadway conditions, as well as those bridges and overpasses becoming frozen. But it's Tuesday night into the early hours of Wednesday morning where temperatures are going to be the coldest, dropping into the possible upper teens here across the Houston area. Precipitation is going to be out of the picture, but it's going to be very cold. So there is going to be a brief period Tuesday afternoon where we could exceed freezing. That's going to give the opportunity for anything that's fallen Tuesday morning to melt temporarily, but it's Wednesday night into Wednesday morning is where that precipitation could refreeze and possible still give us icy conditions into the early hours of Wednesday, even though the precipitation chance will be coming to an end. So as we look at the latest model of ice accumulation here across southeast Texas. Yesterday, it was showing more of the ice accumulation south of Houston and southwest of Houston along I-69 towards El Campo and Victoria. But the latest models this morning showing that ice accumulation a little bit closer to Houston, and we could get some ice accumulations in the Houston area as we head into the early hours of Wednesday morning. And so it's looking likely that once we head into Tuesday and Wednesday everywhere, along I-10 as far west as San Antonio, it's just south of Austin, is going to be under the gun for that ice accumulation, as both models are sort of hopping on the bandwagon at giving us a possible ice accumulation. And this is where things get very hazardous for us across the Houston area. All of our freeways, all of our roadways, they rise off the ground at some point, and therefore we could be dealing with some possible slick conditions. As we look at the snow potential, like I said earlier, we could still get snow here in Houston, but most of that heavier snowfall likely more north of town. But just keep in mind that snow, sleet, ice, it's all possible as we head into Tuesday and Wednesday. And like I said, those bridges and overpasses, they usually are the first to freeze. So I know this is showing a bridge, but we have a lot of overpasses here in Houston that rise 50, 60 feet off the ground. Usually what happens is that you have that cold air that can reach above and below bridges, usually causes those elevated roadways to freeze first. And that's when you get the more of the slick conditions, and you could possibly lose control of your vehicle if you do find yourself across these roadways. Even if you're probably going uphill or up a ramp or an overpass, that could be very hazardous as we go into Tuesday, Wednesday. So Tuesday, all day Tuesday, into the first half of Wednesday, that's when we're expecting to see the more of the hazard of driving around town or around southeast Texas. Also, this is the final time that we're going to see warm temperatures today. If you are making those necessary winter preparations, definitely do that today as of Saturday. Have Armorflex, fiberglass to protect those pipes. I know a lot of folks like to use pool noodles to protect the pipes. Also, if you have pipe tape, that's another good option to protect your home. Also, spigot covers. It's very easy to find those spigot covers on Amazon or on Walmart. But definitely, it's one of those things that we are going to be dealing with hard freeze conditions here across southeast Texas. And that's when the temperature falls to about in the 20s, and it's in the 20s for an hour or more. That's a hard freeze, and that's when we have the risk for those pipes to burst. Also, keep in mind, I know a lot of us like to save money, like myself, when it comes to heating your home, but you want to heat your home during this period because our homes and businesses are not really equipped to or insulated enough they're not insulated enough for the winter weather potential here across the Houston area. So heat your home as well as keeping your house insulated. Let the water drip from faucets. If you find yourself having to be away from your house next week, turn the water off to your house because you don't want to return home to busted pipes or a mess like we saw back in 2021. But the good news, though, is that we are not expecting another repeat of 2021. It's looking more likely that this winter weather event is only going to encompass southeast Texas and the southern half of the state. It's not going to be a widespread state event. But as we look at our 7-day forecast, high temps today topping out in the low 60s. We will start seeing that surge of cooler air move through this evening. So expect those winds to pick up and those temps to fall tonight. And we're going to fall into the 30s for the folks heading out to the marathon. I know a lot of marathon runners are saying that they are looking forward to the cold temperatures. Hey, it may even help runners out for some of them. But as we head into tomorrow, just make sure you are layered up, multiple layers. The wind chill is going to be bitterly cold because we're going to see those temps in the 30s. And when you factor in the gusts up to 30 miles an hour, that is going to give a wind chill factor at around maybe 20s, upper teens in some locations. So we're going to struggle to make it out of the 40s for Sunday. Sunday, a dry and cold day. It's Monday, late Monday evening is when we are expecting the arrival of the precipitation. It's going to be more isolated late Monday, not as widespread, but once we get closer towards midnight, early hours of Tuesday morning, that's when it starts becoming widespread. Temps are going to fall into at or below freezing, likely in the upper 20s, and that's when we could see widespread snow, sleet, maybe a wintry mixture of frozen precipitation, possible freezing rain, and then that's going to refreeze again once the temps warm up Tuesday afternoon, and we're going to see more of the colder temperatures Wednesday morning as those upper teens are expected. But winds will calm by Wednesday. We're going to slowly warm up into the 40s by Thursday. More rain chances in store for us for Friday, but it's going to be a very interesting next few days. And you want to start making those necessary winter preparations now, today, Saturday, before those cold temps start surging in later on this evening, because we are going to see cold conditions tomorrow. So even though you see no rain or snow for Sunday, it's going to be very cold out there. So you don't want to find yourself having to wrap your pipes at the last minute because it's going to be bitterly cold, and you're probably not going to want to do it, but then you're going to need to do it because we are going to see those hard freeze conditions starting Monday, and then those overnight temps dropping into the 20s, lasting into freezing for Tuesday into Wednesday. But just keep in mind to make the necessary preparations as of now. And as we get closer to this event, which is going to take place on Monday, we are getting a better understanding of what we could see here in Houston, and we are doing our best to give you the latest forecast information once we find out here in the newsroom. And you can always find the latest updates on the KHOU 11 app and on KHOU.com. Again, I'm meteorologist Chris Ramirez with your latest update for the winter storm event that's expected to move into southeast Texas beginning on Monday.